But I'm aware that for many, many people, when they get told they have cancer, their immediate thought, like mine was, is that I was going to die. 18 years previously, I was in a very different situation where the overriding thought for a period of time was I didn't want to live. Yeah, I think having a purpose, finding what that is for you personally, what's your passion, what's your reason for living, what's your reason for getting out of bed. I think that's really, really important. So, welcome to this episode of Lived Insights. Slightly different in that I am actually in the guest seat today. Basically, one of the guests wasn't able to make it due to illness. So we had the studio booked and we thought, what could we do? So I'm here with Greg, the videographer, who's going to be, interviewing me, I guess. We thought it'd be a good idea to have a conversation about the film or the talk, Climbing Through the Darkness, which is a talk that I do to organisations, to groups, to companies, and it was filmed a few months ago with Greg as the videographer on YouTube. So that film we'll put on the Lived Insights channel, and over the next hour we'll discuss what that's about, why I made it, and also it gives an explanation as to why I've set up Lived Insights. So should we get on with this episode?
Let's crack on. Not familiar being this side of the camera, but
I'm not familiar with this seat, but let's give it a go.
Yeah, so where should we start? So gratefully, probably 5 months or so ago, you reached out to myself to tell me about this film you wanted to make, Climbing Through the Darkness.
Yeah.
Could you...
Why?
Yeah. Could you break down why?
Sure. So I set up Lived Insights, and I'm sure we'll talk about more the reasoning behind that during the summer of last year. And I'd kind of put it out there to a lot of my network, and it got some good traction, lots of questionnaires filled in, but it was kind of felt as if I needed to get it out, raise more awareness. And one of the ways I thought about was doing a talk, getting, connecting with people, getting closer, people actually hearing and seeing what Lived Insights is all about. But I needed to give them the backstory, why I've set this up, give them a real connection to it. And so I had this talk that I'd done for a little while called Climbing Through the Darkness, which is all about dealing with life-changing challenges. And I kind of used mountains as a metaphor on quite a few of the talks I do. And I felt this would be a really good way of getting across the reason for Lived Insights. And worked on it for a while, contacted yourself, so I thought I needed to have something that people could see before then offering it out as an actual talk to organisations. So that's the really reason why. But there's another big reason for doing it and having it filmed and paying all that money for you to very professionally film it, edit it, etc. And that was because I wanted my daughter to be able to understand a bit about what I'd been through the last few years, because she's too young to understand, and have something documented, something there which in years to come she'd be able to watch, to listen to, just to get a better understanding. Because I don't know what my future holds. I don't know what the situation is regarding the cancer, and I just wanted to have something really for her to explain, a bit about what I'd been through, who I was, what I was looking to try and do. So there was that very personal reason, and it was probably the way I justified it, spending that that money. And she hasn't seen it yet. She's still too young. She's 6 years of age. And when I was diagnosed with cancer, she was just 3. And so that's, I guess, the background to doing the film, or the filming of the talk. But the talk itself, I wanted to both explain why I spent so much money, time, effort setting up Lived Insights and why I believe in the concept so much, but also to benefit people through what I've been through. And for those that don't know, essentially it's a story, a talk about why I believe I was able to deal with the cancer diagnosis, the treatments, the recovery, the second diagnosis, the recovery, better than a lot of people. And therefore, what could I offer in the way of insights, in the way of my experience that could help other people? It's called Climbing Through the Darkness. It's got that element of the mountains there, which is a feature of the talk, the film. How to deal with life-changing challenges. So, we've got a whole mix of different things in there, and it talks about different challenges. And with myself, for many years now, those challenges have tended to be ones that I've looked for myself and in the mountains, going on different adventures and trips and expeditions and all that sort of stuff. And then it quickly turns into my cancer diagnosis. And when it comes to a diagnosis of cancer, for a lot of people, firstly, everyone's situation is different. Every cancer is different. Every circumstance is different. So I can only really talk about my experience. But I'm aware that for many, many people, when they get told they have cancer, their immediate thought, like mine was, is that I was going to die. And it was such a shock to me having this diagnosis. But then very quickly they talked about the fact that the lump that I'd gone to the hospital to get checked, that was a secondary tumour. And then they started talking about primary tumours and treatments, and it all suddenly got very quickly way out of hand, where nothing was going in. All I could hear was cancer, that means death. And the way they were talking, it really wasn't very good. And when I got home in a bit of a state of shock, I talk about this in the film, I Googled very naively, don't Google stuff, or be very careful. And before I could even finish typing out head and neck cancer, I saw 25% survival rate came up. So it reaffirmed to me that I was going to die. So then it was all around, well, how am I going to deal with this situation? The primary thought in my head was around the fact that I had a 3-year-old daughter. I was going to die. Therefore, I couldn't be her dad, her daddy. I couldn't be a parent. I wouldn't see her grow up. I couldn't sort of impart all my insights, all my knowledge, wisdom onto her, and all those things. And that became like the most sort of overriding sort of thought process was about, I'm not going to be able to be a dad for my daughter who's 3 years old, because she's far too young to understand, and then I wouldn't have time to, or how do I pass on that knowledge, what I've learned, my experiences?
It must just be such an overwhelm of
I mean, it's a bit strange looking back, because that's over 3 years ago now. And interestingly, with the questionnaires on Lived Insights and people with lived experience on the cancer, one of the questions is, what word or words would you describe your experience? And for quite a while now, looking back at what I went through, both in terms of the diagnosis, those couple of months of like not knowing what's going to happen, all the additional scans and biopsies and treatment plans, and then the treatment and everything that goes with it. My word was surreal. And out of I think there's 110 people who filled in a questionnaire as we sit here today. Hopefully that will keep going up. That is the most common.
Really?
I was
Wow.
like, surreal, because you just don't. you can't believe what you've gone through and what you went through. And I think this applies to most things that people go through. We've heard on different episodes of Lived Insights of this podcast, people going through like the most horrendous, like grief, bereavement, tragic loss, all sorts of different
Depression,
issues,
ADHD.
depression, so many things people go through. And if you just step back and look at it, you think, how do they get through that? How do they deal with that? But the reality is, pretty much everyone does. They deal with it. They don't quite know how, but they deal with it. They get through it. And there's levels to that. And I think the more knowledge, the more understanding, the more support, the more insights, the better they'll be able to deal with it. And also, the better they might recover from it. Because a lot of the time, I think people can deal with the real hard stuff, but then once they're through that, they've got to try and recover. They've got to try and get back to who they were or what they want to be, and that can be the difficulty. So I think people underestimate what you can deal with. You can deal with a hell of a lot, and you'll get through most things, even though you won't believe it. And when you look back at it, you'll think it's surreal. So yeah, it was. Again, in the talk, I discuss, talk about the first few weeks, trying to come to terms with that and deal with that, and that brings me on to the depression that I went through 18 years previously, because with the cancer and that situation, the overriding thought was, I don't want to die. Simple as that. Cancer, I'm going to die. I don't want to die. 18 years previously, I was in a very different situation where the overriding thought for a period of time was, I didn't want to live. So pretty much the complete opposite. And sadly with so many people, you have suicidal thoughts. You're in that real deep, dark depression, extremely difficult to get out of. Very difficult for other people to understand when they're not in that situation or going through that. But it brought me back to that situation. And I talk about the 2003 Rugby World Cup because that was
Johnny
Wilkinson, the drop goal, and very fortunate for myself. I love rugby, the timing of it all, the fact that England kept winning and then won, that made a huge difference to my situation in that
gave you some positive energy.
Yeah, I mean, the reality was I didn't want to live, but I wanted to see the next match. And they kept winning. So, and by the time they actually won the World Cup towards the end of November 2003, those really strong, powerful, suicidal thoughts had kind of passed me by. They'd gone. I was still deeply depressed, but I wasn't in that mindset of not wanting to live. It was more about I turned myself into how am I going to deal with the situation? How am I going to get through this?
Can I ask a little bit about the depression?
Sure.
Was it kind of like a gradual over the years, and then you found yourself in this slump, or did it come on quite heavy, quite fast? It was more the fast, heavy, as opposed to gradual. I mean, I knew nothing about depression at the time. It wasn't until quite a long time afterwards I understood, started to make sense of it, right, I get this now. And essentially, it was, without going into too much detail right now, because it's probably a whole nother podcast. Sure.
It was a situation over quite a long period where I was putting in so much effort, so much hard work, putting so much into something, and other people and other companies didn't do what they were supposed to do. And that, I took the hit for that, effectively. And it comes back to unfairness. In my eyes, it was unfair, it was unjust. These people didn't have integrity. It was but I was taking the hit for it. And I'm someone, you have to understand yourself, and it was a whole process of trying to understand my own personality and everything else, and my values, my integrity. Like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it. There has to be a hell of a reason for me not to do that.
Yeah.
And I find it very difficult to deal with a situation where someone says they're going to do something and they don't. And I take things very personally, and that kind of, when someone, it's out of your control, you are affected by what someone else does or doesn't do, and that injustice, that unfairness really gets to me. And that's really what happened. It was a combination of several things happening in a fairly small space of time, where I was taking this massive hit for it, and it was the fact that I was putting so much in, and that all built up to a point where, if this is what life's about, I don't want to be part of it. I'd kind of had that simple equation, effort equals reward, was completely gone. And I'd perhaps been, for most of my life, in a situation where I wasn't put into those positions where I could be so affected by other people not doing what they should be doing. But now I was, and that kind of really, really got to me. So, still things, things like that happen all the time now, and I don't like it, but I've come to accept it more, understand it a bit more, kind of deal with it a bit more. But it's simply that my personality, my character, found certain things so unfair and unjust that really, really got to me, and it built up. And I was taking it was financial, it was, I guess, reputation, I was always quite competitive, and the situation caused me to fail, and I was a failure. So it's all this combination of things, and it all got really, really intense for a period. And that's kind of, so it's just stress-related depression, but it's more about understanding myself and what then affects me, and what annoys, really, really got to me.
Yeah. Okay, no, it's just interesting to learn a bit more about that, but I'm sure we could dive deeper into that in another
very
episode.
Happy to talk about it. And what the really real reason for mentioning that was that then led me. So at the time, I knew nothing about it, didn't understand it. Could never. I didn't understand it myself, so I couldn't expect anyone else to understand it. Felt like I can't discuss this with anyone, and then I had to sort of get through that, and it was years later that I kind of, through setting up Climb Your Mountain, the charity, which was really to help anyone going through difficult times like I'd been through, and I felt that I'd learned a lot that would help other people, but very much on the physical side, being active, doing sport, doing challenges, really helpful. But it was only after I'd set that up that then I started to, through just a coincidence, came across a book, and then another book, and then it's like, whoa, this all now starts to make sense. And started to understand and learn about the brain and depression and stresses and different, your character and how things are all affected. And again, a long, long process to gain the knowledge and the understanding, and then start to work out what's going to work for me, and then apply it and all of this. And it built up over several years when I started to deliver courses and workshops and talks, and started writing books and meeting loads of people, and becoming an unqualified expert in nowadays mental health. Back then, that was, we didn't really talk about mental health, but health and well-being. And
you really showed how, from being so low, down, depressed, feeling hopeless, so then completely flipping that on its head and being so productive towards helping others.
Yeah,
it's incredibly inspiring to a lot of people, I'm sure.
Well, hopefully helpful, and it has been. I know for a lot of the stuff we have done with Climb Your Mountain over the years, but it was an instinctive, I've gone through something, what can I do to help other people not have to go through that? As in, I think I've learned something, or I wouldn't want my worst enemy to go through that, so why, let's see what we can do to help. And that's just part of my nature, and that's why Lived Insights has come about. I hope you're finding this episode interesting, informative and beneficial. And if so, please like, comment, subscribe, follow, and keep watching and listening to future episodes. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your colleagues. Also, if you can, go to the LivedInsights.com website and fill in an online questionnaire. You'll be helping so many other people understand more about these different topics and issues. So remember, tune in to Lived Insights, the conversation, and the website. Thank you. I didn't understand, as I said before, all of this while I was going through the worst parts. And during the next phase of climbing a mountain, I was still pretty depressed. And then once I started to know it, it's like, okay, I now know what I can do. And it took so much effort and time to practice and apply and keep doing this stuff and becoming good at it in order to manage and deal with, overcome, beat, whatever you want, how you want to say it, to a point where I would say, to hopefully inspire other people and encourage them that the effort is worth it, to a point where I had now a superpower, as in I can't get depressed anymore because I now know all these things, have all this knowledge, have all this what I call toolbox to go to any situation. And therefore, yeah, it was horrible, horrendous, and it is for anybody for years. But if you do this, if you do that, if you put the effort in, the time in, etc., and realise there's no magic wand or quick fix or magic pill, actually, it can be a good thing. You've got this superpower where you've been so low and you've got through it. There's nothing lower than wanting to kill yourself.
Rock bottom.
And now you're equipped with all this information, these tools. So you know you can't go that low again. And therefore that gives you huge confidence. And, I used to say, you can now deal with anything. It's a superpower. And I believed it.
Can I ask?
Sure.
With doing talks, did the power and belief to be able to do that come from hitting rock bottom? Because that's, for some people, that's their biggest fear, standing up on stage doing a talk.
No, I've never had an issue public speaking or giving talk. Confidence is it's a strange thing in that it's all different types of confidence, different formats. I've always been confident in myself. There's been different times, that's it's changed a bit, but generally I've been pretty confident in my own abilities and myself. I've never really had an issue with public speaking or doing that sort of thing. I think it's more, so my character is, like with Climbing Mountain, like with Living Insights, is trying to find positives out of any negative situation, and I'd like to help people if I can. So yeah, the talks and all that stuff was never really an issue. And I said this quite often. Anxiety, I've never suffered with anxiety. I've never had anxiety. It's never been an issue. Often depression and anxiety go together. Not with me. I've had periods where perhaps a bit of anxiety. I've had a lot more anxiety since my daughter was born, like worrying about her and stuff like that. And I've had some panic attacks as a result of the cancer early on, which was, whoa, what the hell's this? And it was only afterwards I realised it must be panic attacks. So there's been elements of anxiety in more recent years, but generally been confident, no anxiety. So yeah, that's.
Yeah, Charlie. So I didn't know originally that Climbing Through Darkness film, big part of that was to actually have something for your daughter, which makes that content so much more meaningful and powerful. And wow, what a great thing that she can hold on to for the rest of her life.
Well,
Hopefully you'll still be here anyway for a big part of that.
Yeah, I mean, when I look back now, she was 3 years of age. She just started nursery. Didn't understand, far too young. She still doesn't understand now. What she understands now is that I had a poorly neck and I've got a bad shoulder. I mean, that's from some of the side effects mainly from the surgery, like subsequently in the second diagnosis. But she has no real concept. She wouldn't know if someone said, "Oh, your dad's got cancer or had cancer," or she wouldn't know. She doesn't understand. But it comes back to, I guess, there's a slightly maybe selfish aspect in that I want her to understand what I've had to go through, but at the same time, more importantly, I want her to benefit from what I'm trying to get across. And so going back to those first few days, weeks, when it was trying to get my head around the fact that I was probably going to die, but I've got a 3-year-old daughter, what am I going to do? And then it became about, well, the biggest thing, as I mentioned, and sort of regret was I wasn't going to be able to pass on the knowledge, all the stuff I've been through in life, the ups and downs. How could I pass that on? And I started thinking about, well, do I do videos? Do I write stuff down? How can I get that across? But very, very quickly, you're having scans and biopsies and meetings, and you haven't got time to do all that. Mm-hmm. And it was like trying to, what am I going to do? And before you know it, you're doing treatment, you're going through all the chemo, the radiotherapy, you're in such it's horrendous, and then trying to recover. You haven't got time, you haven't got the energy to think what you can do. And it was only several weeks, months after the original treatment that I kind of started to believe that I'm going to be okay here. I mean, forget the subsequent second diagnosis, but I'm going to be okay here. So I started to think, right, I don't need to plan for what I'm going to provide my daughter in terms of advice and wisdom and life experience and all that, because I'm going to be around.
Yeah.
But I started then to think, well, actually, I've learned so much. And I was coming up to sort of getting close to 50 years of age, past that now. But I was like, I've learned so much in my life. But so many other people have learned so much, different experiences, whether it's cancer, whether it's depression, whether it's whatever it might be. Yet most of the time, their knowledge, their expertise just is confined to themselves or possibly a close friend, partner.
Because this came to you when you're in hospital, right? Undergoing treatment, LivedInsights.
It was after that, because when you it's really difficult. I mean, I was trying to run a business as well, so all my efforts away from that was trying to keep that going. So no, it was a couple of months afterwards where I started finally. It took about 9 weeks after treatment finished where I wasn't completely exhausted. I could start to sort of look forward in the future, and it was like, right, what am I going to do? What can I do? And it's that realization that we've all got so much knowledge. We're surrounded, especially these days, by experts and celebrities passing on their insights, their experiences, which is great. And it's great. They reach a huge audience. And some of these experts have got loads and loads of knowledge, and some of these celebrities and influencers have got knowledge. And that's great. But think how many millions of other people have got way more knowledge. If you could just extract some of that real, authentic, genuine, lived experience.
Definitely.
And I think because of people don't have that many opportunities to pass on what they've learnt, I was like, well, how could you capture that? How could you capture all these people? And I would go out, whether it's a supermarket or at the gym or just anywhere, look around and think, wow, look at all that knowledge, look at all that insights in everyone's head, which probably doesn't go anywhere. And it's not because people don't want to, because most people want to help others if they can. It's they don't really have the opportunity, or some people don't want to, don't want to go there, don't want to talk about it. Other people might say, I haven't got time to do this. Other people think, I haven't got anything to add. They probably have, but there's so many people who could offer really beneficial knowledge, wisdom, expertise, insights. And so it's like, well, how can we do this? And initially it was about the cancer. I didn't want to just raise a bit of money for a cancer charity, which is great and much needed, but I just felt I want to do more than that.
Yeah.
So, and the more I thought about it, was like, how do we come up with a concept, or how do I come up with a concept that would get people with lived experience, their knowledge, their insights for the benefit of others? Because I just felt there's massive opportunity out there. I also felt that, particularly in my situation with the cancer, I found it tough, difficult to find genuine, authentic information that I thought I could rely on, that I could relate to, that was going to be helpful to myself. That was one thing. So I thought, well, the only real place is other people with going through. But even then, it's like, well, that person is completely different to me, or that person. So it needs a lot of, it's like working out how best that would work. But secondly, and this is really, there's two main things of lived insights. One is it's coming from people with lived experience. So it's real, it's genuine, it's authentic. It's real people who've gone through this. The second thing is the support I had surprised me of how much it helped. As in, I'm not a needy person. I'm not someone who puts stuff out there to try and get likes or attention or something. I don't need that. It's quite nice if you get it, but I've never been that person. And if I need to, I could have dealt with this all completely on my own, because I'm quite confident, and I kind of had this mindset of I can deal with stuff. But I put it out there very early on, partly because I sort of needed to explain the situation for my work. Kind of
good to get it off your chest as well.
But yeah, also just to get it out there. It's like, I'm not someone. I'm a pretty open person. I mean, whatever people might think of me, most people don't know me at all. But I'm open. I talk about anything. It just depends on
I think it's the best way. I think if people are too closed up, then talk to others and see how much better it can make you feel.
Yeah, I mean, I say I'm sort of open about stuff. So I put it out there, and I got loads of response, as in, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and "Oh my God, then it's like, "Oh, you'll be okay," and "Stay positive." All these things, and especially early on, it was like it was too much for me to respond. Like there was too much of it, but also emotionally, I couldn't reply. But I think it's important for people to know that lots of people are in that situation. But I bet the people are looking at it and reading it, and it's beneficial. I didn't have the energy, the emotion to be able to, message back or anything. And I was like, wow, this is helpful. And then, a couple of weeks later, I'd give an update, and I'd get another huge response. And I'd actually look forward. I wasn't putting it every day, every sort of maybe once a week or every couple of weeks.
Spur you on.
And I'd look forward to putting that out, because I knew I was going to get a really good response, and that would make a difference. And I was quite shocked at how much I wouldn't say I needed it, but it helped. There was quite a few annoying things that were being said, but I recognise it was still well-meaning. There's a lot of people I hadn't spoken to for years and years and years coming out, and I'm like, but okay. Yeah. So I was like,
didn't realise I was still friends with you on Facebook.
Yeah, it's a bit like on your birthday, you get someone who the only contact you ever have is when they say happy birthday once a year, and you're like, well, okay, but that's fine. So I was surprised how beneficial it was. But then, as the process went on, and particularly once my treatment had finished and all the support dropped off a cliff, because that's what happens, nobody's fault, it's just lack of understanding of the situation. It was like, wow, this support is really limited. And it could be so much better if people had a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more understanding, as in what they can say, what they shouldn't say, when, or what was happening, and the assumptions people would make. I mean, the biggest one was when treatment ends. You ring, picture of ringing the bell, treatment's finished, everyone's like, way, fantastic. I get to go home because I was on a trial 7 weeks away from home. And it was like, wow, fantastic, 1,000 likes and all this. And then it's, and for most people, and everyone's different circumstances, but depending on treatments and all sorts of things, the next few weeks are going to be the worst, because the effects of the treatment continue to get worse. It's still, the radiation and the chemo is still getting higher and higher before it tails off. So physically, in terms of the pain and the side effects, they get worse before they get better. You're no longer seeing doctors and nurses and carers and receptionists and radiographers every day. You're on your own
by yourself,
and so you kind of like, you miss being cared for. Thirdly, you don't know if it's worked. You won't know for months if all what you've been through has worked. And then fourthly, the support drops off a cliff. So it's the worst time. You need that support, but people don't know that. So
I can't imagine
more
how
about
that must have felt.
Trying to educate people, not with loads and loads of stuff, but just a few things that would make a big difference. So so part of Lived Insights is all about not the 2% or 5% going through the cancer or the bereavement or the ADHD or the depression. It's the 95% who know hardly anything, yet they're the friends, they're the colleagues, they're the family members, they're the partners. If they just knew a little bit more stuff, a little bit more insights, what a difference that would make. So that's really the thing. And it's difficult because in a way it's a solution to a problem people don't realise exists, if that makes sense. As in, it would make so much difference for everybody if they just had a bit more knowledge on these things.
It's only once you told me about Lived Insights that I was like, I can't believe something like this doesn't exist already, because it's so good, so helpful. And I've personally used the platform and submitted my sort of experience in depression and anxiety. And it is really, really good. It's really user-friendly. I can see what other people, have put, and it makes me understand my depression and anxiety more, and you feel like you can relate with others.
Yeah.
So it takes 15 minutes to do. It's like so easy, and it can help a lot of people. So I think it's brilliant.
I hope so, and I believe in it. And it is getting across that what it is. As in, I think, and this is a bit of a problem, I think, generally, particularly with organisations. So there's been so much development and understanding and awareness with so many different issues. But you go to a typical organisation and you talk about their employee well-being, and they're like, yeah, we're great, we do this, we do that, we've got an employee assistance scheme, and we've got a something else, and we've got a day where we do this, and yeah, we're amazing, we're fantastic. And you go, okay, that's great. I'm not here to judge you or mark you, but that's great. However, most of the time when they're talking about, depression or the cancer, they're focusing on the person with that issue, and then we do this for them. We offer this, package or this, whatever it might be. And you're like, that's great, but if the other 95% of the employees had a little bit more understanding, just 15 minutes of reading this or watching a video or whatever it might be, their understanding, their knowledge, their empathy, their support would be so much better and make such a big difference.
Such a healthier environment.
They're not focused on everyone else. They're focused on the problem there, as opposed to what could be done. So it's a difficult one, and it will take time. But once that people start to get it and understand it, and the more people who fill in the questionnaires, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, filling in the questionnaire, sharing their insights, straight away that benefits people. Straight away those results are available for people to access and to look at and to resonate with and to understand and to get more empathy and knowledge.
So can we go over we've done a few podcasts now on different topics. It might be good for the people watching and listening. Like, what topics can they submit information on?
Yeah, so currently there's 8 topics: cancer, menopause, depression, anxiety, bereavement, dementia, but family members or carers, dementia, ADHD in adults, and childbirth issues, trauma. So
Okay.
that's the eight topics. So very diverse, different range, and essentially people with lived experience of any of those topics to fill in the questionnaire, share their experiences, and then that data, the insights, is available in very easy to read format. The questionnaires, you see the questions, the answers, and then there's a summary. So yeah, anyone can access that for free to go on. We want more people filling in questionnaires, more people accessing it. And then in the future, there's lots more we can do, as well as the podcasts and this content. There's loads more things we can do, but it all costs money, takes time, etc. So yeah, it's a slow process, but yeah, I believe in the concepts.
It's really going to help people.
Yeah, hopefully it will help lots of people and will go on to help a lot of people, and lots more topics and lots more different content and different formats, etc. But yeah, going back to the Climbing Through the Darkness talk, it was like trying to give an explanation as to why I've set that up. And I've talked about the depression, where I was now in a situation all those years ago where I could deal with anything. And those first few weeks, as well as thinking about my daughter and her future and all of that stuff, it was, I've now got to prove that I was right. I can deal with anything. So I need to prove that I can deal with this and do it in the best way possible. And a lot of that was going back to all my toolbox, basically. How I would deal with depression and managing that a very, very similar way. Lots of different tactics, techniques, tools, etc. And I'm sure there's other people who dealt with it better than me, but I felt overall I was in a very fortunate position that I could deal with this horrendous situation, the brutal treatment, the prognosis, or at least what I thought at the time, the situation. And yeah, so because of that, I was like, right, obviously wanting to help more people. And in terms of the talk, that is one of the key things, I think, to how to deal with life-changing challenges, is the adversity, the difficulties, the struggles, the failures, I was going to swear then, but the SHIT that you go through, all of that stuff can be beneficial for the future. That phrase, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's the adversity, those challenges, the stuff you've gone through, they will help you in future, because life's going to throw more challenges at you. And one of the best ways of being able to deal with that is looking at how you've dealt with previous situations. And you may not have dealt with them that well, but you could learn from that. What could I have done differently? What did help? What didn't help? Learn from that. And so I think adversity can be a really, really good thing, because everyone's going to go through adversity. So it's like, okay, you get through it, you deal with it, you become stronger from it, you learn from it, because next time you're going to be able to deal with whatever much better, and you can help other people as well.
And if you're at rock bottom, the only way is up from there.
Yeah. Well, this was the thing with the depression. It's like I can't go any further down. I can only, so plus now I've got all this information, all this tool. I've got evidence to show what can be done. So adversity, and it does concern me that generally it feels like as a society in the modern world we've become so risk averse, so be careful, don't do that, stay in your comfort zone, don't take risks. I get it, but you're then not building that resilience. You're not building that that knowledge. You're not building how you can deal with things. So people are going to get diagnosed with cancer. People are going to suffer a bereavement. People are going to go through all sorts of difficult times. One of the best ways of being able to deal with them is the adversity you go through. So yeah, that's a big part of the talk.
You said there was 4 key points, didn't you, to your talk?
So the next one was control. So it's certainly my situation, and I can imagine in many, many other people's situation, you feel completely out of control. And when you don't have control, there's all that uncertainty. There is more anxiety. There's just that feeling of, I can't do anything about this. It's all out of my control. I've got no say in this. And I hated that. It was really, really, really difficult to sort of try and deal with that feeling of I've got no control over this. My life is in these doctors' hands, but it took a while. But then I was kind of, okay, this is causing me a problem here. How am I going to deal with this? And it was then sort of stepping back a little bit and going, well, what is in my control? What can I do? And in my situation, when I was going through the treatment, I soon realised there was loads of things, whether it was making sure I'd taken all the right medication and pain relief, doing all the special mouthwashes I had to do, the creams I had to put on.
Legs, going for a walk, I remember
getting some fresh air, resting when I needed to, going out for walks, eating what I could, there's so many different things, without going into all the details, lots of things. And it then almost became like everything I was doing was something that was going to help me, no matter what it was. So therefore, this is contributing to the situation. I'm doing everything I can in my control, and that will have an impact, and it will contribute to the outcome of whatever's going to be. And that meant so much, that having that bit of control back, control the controllables, was a huge turning point for me, and I think it would be for many people. So yeah, the adversity, the control. And I think they're the 2 big things when you're actually going through a real challenge. Once you've sort of gone through the situation or that particular challenge, there's the afterwards, the recovery, how you, it's almost, in terms of a mountain analogy, and you may know this, you may not, but more people have difficulties, more people die on the way down. There's more issues when people are coming down the mountain. So it's almost like you go up the mountain, you're putting everything into it, that's the focus, getting to the summit, and it's amazing what can be achieved. You put everything in, get to the summit, you've done it. You've got to get back down again. So in a similar way with the cancer and all that treatment, I'd got through it, didn't know if it was going to work or not, but I was then like, I'd lost loads of muscle, put on a lot of fat because I'd had to beforehand. Physically, I was nothing to compare to what I was, a few months before. And then the side effects, all the stuff, because it was all in my neck, down my throat, base of tongue, all this stuff. The recovery, it was like, I've gone through this, now I've got to recover. I've got to somehow try to get back to some kind of normality or back to who I was. And I think most people, like I said before, it's amazing what people can do and what they can deal with. I think most people can get to the summit. Most people can get through the challenge, but they've got to get back down again from the summit. They've got to recover and get back to who they are. And that is often the real hard bit. And that's where people often fail or don't reach the real end point. They think the summit's the end point. No, they've got to get back down again or recover, get back to who they are. And for that, there's two more key things. There's loads of things. In the talk, I talk about lots and lots of different things, but two main things. One is purpose. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to get back down? Yeah? Why do you want to recover and get back to yourself? So for me, three things I talk about in the film. Firstly, the mountains. The mountains, as the mountain coach for many, many years, and Climbing Mountain, the charity, they've been a big part of my life. And fitness-wise, I'm strong, I'm fit. I can
You've climbed a lot
climb
of mountains.
up and down these mountains. I could, you've got to roll up and down them. And, there wasn't really any challenge that I would go, oh, I couldn't do that. I'd be like, okay, I can do that. And so physically I was tough, I was strong, I could do it. And I was literally, lying in my bed after the treatments for weeks and weeks on end. I couldn't, climbing the stairs.
You must have felt so weak.
Yeah, and it wasn't me. And I was like, well, I've got to get back, got to get back and be able to do something. And and I knew, because I knew how difficult it was to deal with the depression before. It's going to take so much time and effort. But that's the only answer. There is no quick fix. It's going to take time and effort. So I took time and effort and I worked my arse off. Should I say that? And trying to build my fitness up again, step by step, carefully, really focus on my diet, even though I couldn't taste anything. In some ways that was a good thing, because I couldn't taste anything, all that had all gone. So
Did you set like little goals for yourself? Like, I want to achieve this in the gym, because I imagine it can be quite overwhelming with, I need to get back to full health, I need to get back fit. And a lot of people might be in bed recovering and just think this is so far off.
Yeah, well, I'll give a really good, I think a really, really, really good example in the film of a guy called John Nabber. And that kind of breaks it down. So small goals. You got the bigger picture, but smaller goals. And for me, the main goal for me was, it happened relatively quickly. A few months later, I was on the top of Scafell Pike, the highest mountain in England. Now, I'd done that 50 odd times, but that one meant a huge amount to me, because it just said to me that actually, I'm nowhere near what I was before, but I can still do this.
The fact you did that a few months afterwards.
And it was
incredible.
I was fortunate in that there was an opportunity to do it. There was a goal. It kind of just fitted in. I could, and I was sensible about it. So the purpose for me was like getting back to be able to climb mountains again. Getting some element of fitness and strength and just being out there. So that was really important and still remains important. The second one was my daughter, as in, I was thinking about this the other day, that pretty much everything I do, and this is why it's even more frustrating when she's being naughty, pretty much everything I do is essentially for her, whether it's working to earn money, to pay the bills, or go on holiday or whatever. Whatever it is, it's for her. And a big part of that is doing as much as I can to live as long as possible. Going back to that control thing. What's in my control? Well, what I eat, what I drink, the exercise, the rest, the sleep, all these things have become even more important. I've always been into health and fitness and stuff, but so much more important. I do as much as I can to give myself the best chance to be healthy and live as long as possible. Basically to see her grow up.
Yeah.
I mean, she's 6 now. I want to be around to see her become an adult and grow up. And so a purpose is that, and therefore, the eating, the drinking, the sleeping, the exercise, all that sort of stuff is very much doing what I can do to try and be as healthy as possible, to live as long as possible. So that's a big purpose. The third of those is then lived insights, as in that. So I put so much money, time, effort, emotion into it because I believe in it. It means an awful lot to me. And for as long as I am able to, I want to keep that going and build it and develop it, etc. So that's a big purpose as well. So having purpose means you do things that are going to help. You put the effort in. You say no to stuff. You say yes to stuff. You have a reason for
to get out
everything
of bed
you
in the
do.
morning.
We'll get out of bed to go to bed. People say, "Oh, reason to get out of bed in the morning." Well, you need a reason to go to bed, to get sleep, to do all these other things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think having a purpose and finding what that is for you personally. What's your passion? What's your reason for living? What's your reason for getting out of bed? What's going to motivate you? What's going to stop you from not eating that rubbish and having something healthy? All these different things. I think that's really, really important. So I'll talk about that in the film as well. And then finally, it's a little bit cheesy, but hope. Maintaining or having that sense of hope, that belief that things are going to work out, things are going to be okay. This is all worth it. I think it's so important. And I use it in the film, in the talk. The quote from The Shawshank Redemption about hope is a good thing, perhaps the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. And I think it is, I say it's cheesy, but it's so important to have hope and that belief and everything else, because if you don't have that, what have you got? If you've got no hope for the future. So yeah, they're the four things. The sort of the two, the adversity before the control, especially when you're actually going through the real difficulties, but then to recover or to get back down from the mountain, having that purpose and then the hope are really important. So lots of other things I talk about, with the talk, and lots of other elements to that. But I think to try and simplify things, that's it. And most people are going to have to deal with all sorts of challenges, some life-changing, and to try and work out how best they deal with that, and also how other people can support people. As I mentioned before, I mean it's a sort of a huge missing piece that people don't focus on, is that support element, the understanding, the empathy. So many people say the wrong things. So many people don't say anything. Some people want to say the right things but don't know what it is. Some people make huge assumptions that aren't good. There's a lot of things that could be improved, and while there's an opportunity to improve things, we've got to keep trying to improve, educate, understand, help, support, etc. So yeah, in terms of the film, the talk, the climbing through the darkness, it's a bit of, I guess, substance or background to all of that. Hopefully people will go and hopefully people will book me to give that talk in person in real life. So any organisations, companies can book me to deliver that talk. I can do a sort of a shortened version, about 45 minutes, and a sort of longer version of about an hour. But then on the YouTube channel, I think it's about 55 minutes. It's not quite the same. It's much better in person, but I'm pretty happy with your editing and videography and filming.
Thank you.
Yeah, people can
Hopefully
go
it's
and watch
worth
that.
the money.
Yeah. So as I say, it's there for anybody to benefit. Take what they want to take from it. Some things will resonate. Some things they might not get, but it's there and it's available.
Without blowing smoke up your, genuinely, I was there in the room filming this talk, and it's really, really powerful and inspiring. So definitely watch it on YouTube. And if you do work for an organization and you can bring Charlie in for a talk, then it's going to really help your employees. So definitely do that.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. And yeah, while we're here. Just want to, the podcasts. I mean, we've only just started them. The plan is to have lots more, generally film like 3 a month. So we are looking for guests. So if anyone out there who'd like to be on the podcast, if you've got lived experience of one of the topics or some of the topics, or if you know someone who has, please get in touch. Email hello@livedinsights.com or message me. So looking for future guests. Please tell friends, family, colleagues about the podcast. Want to obviously grow it. If you subscribe, I know you hear this on all these podcasts, and it is true. If you like, comment, subscribe, it does make a difference. So please do that. And look at all the different episodes. And also please go to the website, the LivedInsights.com website, fill in a questionnaire, tell people about it, look at the results and insights. Let's keep Lived Insights building and growing. Thanks for all your support, and I hope that was helpful, and enjoy the Climbing Through the Darkness talk, film, etc. Thank you. Thanks, Greg.
No worries. Thank you, Charlie. And just one other thing I wanted to add, Charlie, was I think for people who are coming to talks or are subscribing to the YouTube channel, listening to the podcast, I feel like with Lived Insights, it can be a really positive community. There's a lot of trolling online, there's a lot of negativity, but actually this is a place where people can come, participate in the podcast or listen, give their insights online, and actually this is all just helping people. I agree, and I hope it is positive and a sense of community, because it's people who've gone through pretty tough times and difficult experiences, and the people who are filling in the questionnaires want to help other people. The people who are reading the results insights want some help or understanding or knowledge. So it should, and I hope it does, feel a bit like a community, people helping each other, sharing real experiences, and that's got to be positive. And you're right, there's all sorts of stuff out there, social media, online, and Google, and all this stuff, and that's always, I guess, always going to be there. As much as possible, this is real, this is authentic, this is genuine, this is real people with real experiences. So hopefully there is that sense of community, and people realise that they can help others simply by filling in a questionnaire or coming on a podcast and sharing their experiences. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, if you found this episode insightful, helpful, please drop a comment below. Give Charlie feedback. How are you finding the podcast? We would both love to know.
Great.
Thanks again.
Cheers, Greg.
Cheers, Charlie.